Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how to organize your language learning schedule. And I'm going to talk about how you can fit in your language learning around your other responsibilities throughout the week and give you some examples of schedules. But also I'm going to talk you through 3 different tools that you can use to create that schedule. So I know that a lot of you guys are interested in that because you're maybe struggling with finding the time for language learning. Maybe you're struggling to get motivated. And I think using a schedule, something where you can kind of write things down, schedule things in, really improves your outcomes. It can really help you stay motivated, stay organized, and kind of track your progress a little bit better as well. So in terms of the tools that I will be covering in this video, I'm going to be talking about using a calendar. So I'm going to be using Google Calendar, which is what I use personally for my kind of personal schedules. But you can use any kind of online calendar or physical calendar if you prefer for that method. The second method is using Google Sheets or any kind of spreadsheet, so you can use Excel or anything like that, or maybe just a kind of basic table that you can draw on a piece of paper if you prefer. And the third type is using a tool called Trello, which is again a free tool that you can use to schedule things in. So each of these methods is slightly different because some of them are more organized and more structured and more rigid, and other ones are more kind of relaxed. So you can kind of look at the 3 different ways of organizing things and then choose for yourself which one works best for you, for your kind of style, your personality, and your lifestyle. So I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, I'm going to be talking to you and showing you the schedules now. So let's get started.
Okay guys, so the first tool I'm going to show you to talk about how you can organize your language learning schedule is a Google Calendar. So it's basically an online calendar, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. So you can use any kind of online calendar for this kind of way of organizing your schedule. But I'm just using Google, so I'm going to show you that, and then you can adapt it to your own kind of preferences. So first of all, you can see that I've got 3 different colors in this calendar. I've got yellow, orange, and green. And yellow is basically my personal stuff. You can see here I've got a personal calendar. I've got language learning highlighted in green, and I've got work stuff highlighted in orange. So it's a nice way of organizing things because you can kind of either just deselect here so that you can only see your language learning, for example, or you can select all of them and you can basically see what proportion of your day or week is taken up by language learning. It's also nice to kind of use the color coding because you can see that some of the activities actually overlap. So on Monday, I've got a walk and some exercise scheduled in for a couple of hours between 8 and 10. But it's a good opportunity for me to listen to a podcast as well, a language learning podcast. So that's the kind of activity that can overlap. And you know, when you've got the color coding, you will be able to spot different opportunities like that. So I'm going to listen to a podcast, and also I'm taking my car to a garage on Wednesday, so I can listen to a podcast either on the way there or whilst I'm waiting for it to be repaired. So again, there's a little bit of an overlap there. So in terms of organising my language learning schedule, as you can see, I've got 3 breakfast sessions where I'm basically just putting it in my diary just because I know that when I do that, it will actually happen. Often it's kind of like a psychological trick where you put something in the diary and you know that it will happen because it's like an appointment, isn't it? So I've got a breakfast vocabulary session, which is basically something I'm going to be doing whilst I'm having breakfast. And then you can see on Monday, later that day, I've scheduled in a 45-minute long vocab review. So that's going to be basically reviewing vocabulary from this morning, but also from sort of the previous week, because I haven't got any other kind of reviews scheduled. This is just like a weekly session where I will be looking over all the vocabulary that I learned the previous week. So I've got a couple of different podcasts kind of slots scheduled in. Like I said, they clash with other things, but those other things are things that I can combine with language learning. Then I've got a bit of reading that I can do at lunchtime. Usually that's a kind of time that is more like freed up. On Friday afternoon, I've got a long session, which is basically a kind of solid 2-hour session for learning something specific. And then I've got an italki call on a Sunday. So you can see there's not a lot going on there, but I do have quite a busy calendar, quite a busy schedule. So I'm quite happy with the distribution of these tasks. So this is actually quite a formal way of organizing your language learning. I think it does have its advantages. When you book things in this way, they are more likely to happen because they are in your diary. You can set yourself a reminder, for example, so you don't forget. But also it's quite a rigid way of organizing things, so it won't work for everyone. Some people just like the freedom of being able to kind of decide as they go along when to learn. So if they're not in the mood, they're not going to do it. They're waiting for that moment when they're in the mood for language learning, which is perfectly fine. And I'm going to show you my next tool, or a couple of tools that will enable you to do that. Okay, so let's move on. What I want to share with you is basically a spreadsheet, and I personally like using Google Sheets, but you can use anything. You can use Excel, you can use Numbers, or any kind of application that allows you to use sheets. So this one is, the schedule is actually the same as the Google Calendar that I showed you in the previous clip, except it's a bit less rigid. So as you can see, the activities are exactly the same. There is some vocabulary between Monday and Wednesday. There is an extra vocabulary session, a vocabulary review on Monday as well. There are a couple of instances of listening to a podcast, a couple of reading sessions, a long session, and an italki call. The only difference is that there are no timings attached to those sessions. So that's why the schedule is a little bit more relaxed. So you basically schedule something in on Monday, for example. You can be doing a vocabulary and a vocabulary review and listen to a podcast. But there are no kind of specific time slots for when you're going to do it. So you just kind of plan it, and that way, it's in there, it's in your schedule, but you've got the flexibility to decide, when do I have time or when do I feel like it, and that's when you do it. So again, I find color coding very useful for that, just because you can kind of see, am I doing enough vocabulary this week? And then you just look at the yellow fields and you can kind of decide, yeah, that's good enough. Or maybe it's not good enough. When you look at the long sessions, maybe you're the kind of learner that needs 3 long sessions per week. I personally don't have the time to do that. So at the moment, I've only got 1 long session per week. So Google Sheets is what I use for that. So usually I just create a different sheet for each week, and I can have them in separate tabs, so I don't have to sort of open new sheets. I just sort of flick between the different tabs, and I can see, what's coming up next week, for example. So let's move on to the final bit. The tool I want to share with you is Trello, and it's probably one of my favorite ways of organizing my work. I actually use Trello for everything, personal stuff, work stuff, and language learning stuff as well. And this is probably the least kind of rigid way of organizing your language learning schedule, but it does have a lot of benefits. One of those benefits is that you can create little cards and you can add details to those cards. So rather than just saying, I'm going to learn vocabulary, I can create a card that says adjectives, and then I can, include all the different kind of adjectives I want to be learning that week, and also information about what sentences they go in, what sentences I want to practice reading and saying out loud. So that's a really good kind of aspect of Trello. But basically what this is, it's a weekly schedule, and it doesn't really have any days or any dates or specific times. It just has the stuff that I want to achieve this week. So there's 4 different sections. There's vocabulary, there's reading, speaking, and grammar, and I want to be focusing on all of these different areas. And the little cards underneath each section are basically the different aspects of that area that I want to be learning about. So like I said, for vocabulary, I want to be learning these 5 adjectives. I want to review vocabulary from the 24th of July, which is probably a big vocabulary session I did. I haven't got any details added to that yet. Then I want to look at synonyms of one particular verb and learn those. And I want to learn some phrases for something. So for example, phrases for saying thank you in Spanish. And then when it comes to reading, I want to read a news story and I want to read 1 blog post as well. Speaking wise, I want to practice a 5-minute presentation on a topic. I want to complete an italki lesson, and I want to be able to describe the world. And I'm going to do that specifically on the 25th of July. I've kind of noted that down because I know I've got some time then to do it. In terms of grammar, I want to practice the 3rd conditional, and I want to also learn about the subjunctive. So this schedule is kind of more flexible because it doesn't include any kind of dates or times, but it's also more specific because it's got the kind of specific information about what I want to be studying, which is great and very helpful. So once I've completed the cards, I basically move it to this amazing done column, and this is very satisfying actually. So once I've completed the italki lesson, I'm going to move it over there. I'm also going to move the subjunctive. Once I've learned it, bit by bit, I'm creating a list of all the different things that I'm completing, and it's actually very motivating to do that and then to be able to see that list and all the different colours or the different areas that I've covered that week. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little overview of Trello, and I definitely recommend it. Give it a go and let me know how it goes.
Okay guys, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments which method you are most likely to use. And if you use a different method, a different tool, share it in the comments as well, because I know other people will be interested in finding out what you use and what's worked for you. So yeah, like I said, make sure you subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss similar videos in the future. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.